Well, back home, and since mid-2007, borrowing costs have gone up 100 basis points for business and 90 for households, and there's likely to be another interest rate rise in May, despite what they say. RBA Board Secretary Tony Froth joins me from Sydney. Tony Froth, what is the Reserve Bank and why is it putting interest rates up?
Well, Sean, the Reserve Bank is a very special kind of bank which looks after monetary policy in this country. We put up the interest rate to discourage people from spending. Less spending, less demand. Less demand, prices fall. Prices fall, inflation reduces.
Yes, but a higher interest rate means things you have to borrow money for, like houses, end up actually being more expensive.
Well, yes, you spend more on houses and less on day-to-day things like food. Less food purchases, oversupply. Oversupply, cheaper prices. Cheaper prices, less inflation.
Yeah, but won't people buy more things if they're cheaper?
Well, not if you have less money.
Yes, but doesn't that put me in the same position? Either I have more money to buy expensive things or less money to buy the same things when they're cheaper.
Well, exactly. It's about putting things on an even keel.
Yes, but getting there is what's difficult, isn't it?
Well, it's pretty straightforward.
Yes, but if I suddenly have to spend 40% of my income on my mortgage instead of 20%...
Well, less money to spend, less demand. Less demand, prices drop.
But that assumes I have a choice. If I've only got 60% of my income to spend, but have the same amount to buy as when I had 80% to feed my family or clothe them or educate them, then...
Well, you can't. You have less money to spend. Less spending, supply outstrips demand. Supply per unit drops in price. Things have to become affordable or they won't sell. That's the beauty of a free market.
Ah, but it's not a free market, is it? You're interfering with it.
Well, you have to, otherwise you end up with a depression. Awful business. People leaping out of windows, that sort of thing.
People drop, fewer people, less demand, prices drop.
Very true.
Thank you, Tony. And before we go to the break, the headlines so far. Herpes inducted into STD Hall of Fame. Anti-Gore lobby claims polar bears don't need Antarctica anyway. And SBS lawyers remove joke. Much, much more momentarily.
Jim Asprey is the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. Tony Hermanson is the CEO of an international media company. Max Millen and Oliver West Danton are the CEO and managing director, respectively, of a successful telecommunications conglomerate. Lauren Valco is the CEO of her own multinational property development group. And Brian Doddridge is the CEO of the Southern Hemisphere's largest mining company. But once a week, this homogenous group of advantaged, uber-wealthy executives comes together to create an unlikely musical partnership. Follow their journey from the BRW Rich List to still being on the BRW Rich List, but now also being in a choir. The Choir of Silver Spoons, coming soon to SBS.
One of the great things is that you can come in here and if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you don't have to. Obviously, we prefer it if you did. But we have some people come in here and spend the whole weekend without buying anything. You know, they come in here and they have a couple of free sausages at the barbecue on a Saturday morning and then they wander around the store for a couple of days as if it's some kind of hardware Disney World. I find those people and their personal hygiene issues quite confronting, and we do have to get security to come in and move them along. But anyway, as I say, you don't have to spend a lot. You know, it's not as if someone's going to, follow you around the store with a calculator hassling you to, spend up or get out. As long as you spend something.
Tony Perrin masks, $18.99. King Island dust, $1.89 a jar.
And like I say, those people will be out on the street, when we shut up. But that's hardly my problem. I've got 4 people waiting to talk to me about rockeries.
Bunnings Warehouse. Lowest prices are just the beginning.
Welcome back to Newstopia. Still to come. Opening of Jackie Chan Science Centre prompts Gustav Nossel to star in martial arts film. Downer considers new role as replacement Eucalypt. And the Knights Templar cleared of heresy after 700 years.
Yeah, no, that is really good news. Gosh, I couldn't be happier.
Well, he's young, handsome, charismatic, has a vision for change and could soon be the first black president of the United States. No, I'm not talking about John McCain, but the 46-year-old senator from Illinois, Barack Obama. Wanda Nee Babcock from our Washington Bureau. Wanda.
Thank you, Sean.
Well, Hillary Clinton's surprise showing at the Texas and Ohio primaries last week means that Barack Obama finds himself back in a neck-to-neck race for the Democratic candidacy. And he did well today, but many are asking just how all of this will affect the likelihood of Obama's assassination. Well, preliminary polling shows that 38% still believe that Obama will be struck down by a crazed loner. 26% think that race will be a factor in his death at the hands of a southern redneck. An al-Qaeda jihadist is a popular prediction at 18%, while conspiracists have made their voices heard with the CIA strong at 16%, and 2% think that Hillary Clinton herself will be the one to pull the trigger. Sean.
Thanks, Wanda. Sorry, is Tony Frost still on hold? Can we bring him up? Tony Frost, hi. Something occurred to me during the break. If interest rates rise, they don't just rise for consumers, do they? They also rise for business. I think the business lending rate's now about 17%.
Well, it's 17.2 actually.
Okay. Well, doesn't that mean they've got less money to spend, will produce less, which lowers supply? Lower supply, same demand, prices rise.
Lower production, less work. Less work, higher unemployment. Higher unemployment, less spending, lower prices.
We certainly thought this through. Thanks, Tony.
Pleasure.
Can't. Yep. His Holiness the Pope, spiritual leader to the world's almost 1 billion practising or lapsed Catholics, is to host a groundbreaking summit of Muslim and Catholic leaders and scholars. It's all part of a push for dialogue between the religions, which, at least insofar as the costumes are concerned, have more similarities than differences. Jersey Carmel expounds.
15 Benedicts before him tried and failed, but this is a different model of Pope. He's the German-engineered Benedict XV1, and he's driven to not repeat the mistakes of the last major Christian Muslim summit, known as the Crusades, which, it must be said, did not end well. This latest get-together of the two religions to be held in Rome in November comes almost 2 years on from a speech in which the Pope suggested a link between Islamists and violence. It did not go down well, but on the plus side, those in the Pope effigy business did very nicely out of it. Back then, the pontiff was still at the experimental stage. Now, after some fine-tuning, it's hoped that Benedict XV1 will get a chance to show off his sure handling, smooth performance, luxurious interior, and twin airbags in case the summit hits a brick wall. Jersey Carmel, Vatican City.
Still in that neck of the woods, and Baroness Margaret Thatcher was in and out of hospital last week. The 81-year-old former Prime Minister has had some medical problems in recent years and has become increasingly frail. Doctors say there's only so much they can do for her, given her government's systematic nobbling of the healthcare system back in the 80s. And if they had their way, she'd be on a gurney in a corridor for 18 weeks, along with the rest of the NHS patients. Incredibly insensitive of those doctors. Still, that's socialised medicine for you. Well, they're all friends again, at least for the moment. But last week saw Venezuela, Ecuador and Nicaragua poised on the very brink of war with Colombia. Our Latin American correspondent, Cesar Romero, is still in the Dominican Republic where the accord was reached. Cesar, this all came about after Colombia's cross-border raid into Ecuadorian territory, didn't it?
Oh, yes, that's right, Sean. Colombian forces attacked FARC rebels on Ecuadorian soil. A big no-no. A bit like if me and my goons had taken out Alfred at Wayne Manor.
Thank you, Cesar, and keep safe.
Delicious!